Welcome.
Thanks. Very good to meet you.
Absolutely. Likewise, there's a lot of things that obviously I want to talk about today. There's some good things. There's controversies. There's always drama in the crypto space. There always is. It's just who's the drama surrounded around. And some of the craziness, especially a moment in history that I talked about not too long ago, that due to Zen, Ethereum for the first time ever became deflationary. So a lot of very positive things. With everything that's positive, there's always a level of FUD that people bring. So, and then obviously the drama that somewhat surrounds you and Richard Hart and Hex. Obviously, a lot of people talk about that as well. So, a lot of people possibly interested in that. But I want to know a little bit more about who you are, kind of your kind of story as far as getting involved into crypto in the first place. What was the big idea behind Zen crypto? What drove this whole idea, and kind of like what's its inherent goal? Like what is the purpose for Zen long term? Kind of respond to some of the FUD, some of the things that people are saying right now about Zen, and their personal opinions, and then lastly, kind of just get to know where this whole situation. I know I watched an interview with Kevin Hart. Oh, well, not Kevin Hart, Richard Hart. I watched a Kevin Hart movie last night with Richard Hart, saying, hey, we've got copycats in this space, and stuff like that, and kind of doing like a slight throwing of shade to Zen. So maybe
Sure.
end up with that, kind of see where it is. But for the purpose of our interview, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of where your history started with just kind of your expertise.
Sure. So I've been in open source for about 30 years, probably more than maybe 35 years. I started with Linux as an open source server solution,
Okay.
and did a lot of work with cryptography. Worked on VPNs, firewalls, all kinds of internet related stuff. I think when the first web server came out, I was one of the first people to write the programming interface for it. So
Okay.
they were called CGIs, or Common Gateway Interface,
Yep.
which we know as Web 2 right now. Web 2 is kind of like a combination of JavaScript and CGIs together. But back then, there was no PHP. There was no, Perl was just starting, and Perl was a good scripting language. But I was
Mhm.
actually writing web binaries in C. So I was writing in C, and I was developing all kinds of interesting things, making the web programmable. And that was 1995. So that's how I first started with open source, because in CSA, so that was the first web server came out, and then there was Apache, and
Yep.
so I was working on the web server side a lot, and then I got into Linux and Linux optimization, security, best practices, all of those things. In 1997, I moved to Silicon Valley, and I worked as a security consultant for companies providing IT services as well as the data center related stuff. In
Okay.
'99, I met Larry and Sergey at Stanford and joined Google as employee number 21. And
Yep.
my job there was to develop what we know as the cloud. So I was developing the cloud even before the cloud was known as the cloud.
Yeah.
And that was super fun. I quit Google in '05, started imagehack.com, which was a web, um, uh, it was an image hosting site that became very popular overnight. It had 60 million monthly active users,
Wow.
um, pretty much within a year or a year and a half. We raised money. We raised $11 million. We raised some money from Index Ventures,
Okay.
from a Switzerland company or Swiss company, and we also raised 10 million from Sequoia. So they were great partners on
Okay.
the journey. So from ImageHack, we spawn into other interesting things, B2B solutions for Nordstrom.com. We were serving images for Pinterest. We were serving images and running images for Twitter for about 2 years. So if you were on Twitter back then, I think it was like 2008 or 9,
Oh
maybe
wow.
10. So
Yeah.
that's when so Twitter did not have images, and we were an interface to provide image services for them. So that was incredible experience.
Right.
In 2011, I got introduced into Bitcoin, and I started mining Bitcoin. in my data center. I mined for about 3 years. Um, got really interested in programmable money when Ethereum came out.
Mm,
And over the years, I just spent a lot of time doing research. So just researching what Solidity is, how it works, EVMs, all of the chains. And I was particularly interested in the new chain developments. So I've been doing some work on the trying to see which chain is probably going to win.
sure.
And then obviously, I would say August 1st of this year, we made the first commit to start the Zen project,
Okay.
or what we call Zen Crypto. And Zen
Right.
Crypto was modeled to introduce game theory and game mechanics and tokenomics, obviously, inside of it to mimic Bitcoin as close as possible without major Bitcoin issues. One of the
Sure.
major differences with Zen protocol is that the users get rewarded by inviting other users to participate. So that's why
Right.
we call it a proof of participation protocol, which
Yep.
is somewhat a novel approach. And it, I guess, rejects the notion of scarcity, because scarcity is what made Bitcoin and many other coins somewhat illiquid, where people want to hodl them or hold them for a long time and not do anything with them.
Right.
So that actually reduces the crypto's ability to be world adapted. Like, would you be paying Bitcoin to fuel your car with gas? Well,
Sure.
probably not, because we'll hear about those stories about people buying pizza and or Xboxes and then having regrets, right? I mean, I was
Right.
that person. I bought pizza, sandwiches, dinners, lunches for my friends with Bitcoin throughout the
Mm,
years, hundreds of times.
yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't have any regrets because I felt like I was spreading the good word and education about the
Sure.
um, crypto itself, and I feel people should be onboarded to crypto. And so with
Right.
Zen protocol, you get rewarded for participation. So the more people join after you join, you actually mint together more. But it
Mm,
does have difficulty where every month the difficulty increases by about 1%. So you
okay.
have about, um, should I say 36 months? Well, no, it's not 36 months. It's about 8 years. So 8 years to go,
Okay.
where in 8 years, the possible mint emissions from Zen is going to be reduced quite dramatically. And just to give you an
Sure.
example, at inception, you can mint Zen at 60,000 Zen per day. But
Right.
at the end of the last year, the year 8, it's going to go down to maybe 1,000 a day, then 500 a day, then 100 a day, and eventually will settle between 10 and 20 per day.
Okay.
So it becomes scarce, but only after a massive inflationary curve.
Right.
So we want this cryptocurrency to be inflationary because we want people everywhere to be affected by it. And what's really great about Zen is that it actually onboards many people that haven't been into crypto because they don't feel like they have to pay for it. They just pay
Right.
for a little bit of gas, and they get introduced into other chains too. So I was told two things that I'm very happy about. Um, 12 and 13-year-olds now using crypto and learning MetaMask and learning how to secure their seed phrases and
Yeah.
passwords and understand um, cryptology and cryptography and what self-custody really means, or what I call first principles of crypto. And at the same time, people are getting exposed to other chains. So some
Mm,
people were on Ethereum, they never been to Avalanche. Now they go to Avalanche and Polygon and other interesting chains too, and they get exposure and play with Zen across chains. So that's
right.
great for people learning about other chains without much risk, because on Polygon, you don't even spend $1. You spend about 5 cents to start your mint, which
Exactly.
is awesome. So Polygon
Yeah.
is actually one of the hottest networks right now.
Yep.
Uh, More than 55% of all transactions on Polygon is Zen protocol, which is
Wow.
incredible.
Wow.
So that's kind of like what it is in a nutshell. It's meant to be a world's unifying cryptocurrency where it will bring anybody out there who want to understand and play with crypto on any chains that they want. So we're planning to be obviously omni-chain. We've already launched on 5 chains, and
Right.
we're planning to launch.
Moonbeam and Evmos.
That's
Evos
today. That's
today.
today. Yeah. So we're launching on EVMOS, which is the Cosmos EVM compatible sidechain for Cosmos, and Moonbeam is a Polkadot ecosystem.
Okay.
We're very
Yep.
excited about that too. So that's going to happen 4 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I got my countdown over here. I'm looking at the chains and the countdown. Now, outside of these specifically, obviously you're wanting to bring in this to as many chains as possible. You guys already have like, are you looking to touch every single chain with this, or is it just like these are the top ones we're going after?
So we want to be on every chain,
Okay.
because there's really no reason not to be on every chain. The
Sure.
only criteria that I have for chains is that they're not um, they're not a scam chain. So, like, in other words,
Yeah.
there are two nodes running in somebody's basement, and they just launched it, and they're like, okay, bring the users here. So I
Right.
can't, uh, you know, send people and say, hey, we support this chain de jour because we like the name or whatever, and introduce risk for people that will end up going to the chain and then have all of their money stolen. So
Right.
certainly that is not the goal here.
Right. Absolutely. So the with your involvement in crypto back in 2011, so you were probably mining Bitcoin with CPUs at that point, right? So you had very early exposure to Bitcoin. And what was it that what was the like turning point and the pivotal like decision? You're like, I need to start Zen crypto. Like, what was the catalyst for something like that?
Well, I think the catalyst was is that over the last 5 or 6 years, we saw a lot of Ethereum coins or tokens come up, and all of them were not really following the first principles of crypto.
Mm,
Uh, and I felt like people are just printing tokens out of thin air and then trying to sell them and raise money with them.
mm,
And that's not how Bitcoin launched. So Bitcoin launched with zero supply,
yep.
zero cost. There was no market, and the market developed ultimately. So it was fair and unfair at the same time. It was kind of fair because it was a new thing, and whoever wanted to participate, like myself, I could do it. But nobody in the world actually knew what cryptocurrency was. Now we live in a different world. People do know what cryptocurrency is and how quickly it can become, a strong currency for, in somebody's portfolio, or to be used as a token of exchange for any purpose. And so I felt that rather than participating, well, I never wanted to launch a coin and to become infinitely rich
Sure.
instantly. That was not the plan. I would much rather launch something that has a worldwide impact. And I
Right.
felt that Bitcoin had that impact. And it gave rise to Ethereum and everything we love about crypto today. But
Yep.
we kind of have forgotten the tenets and the Satoshi's white paper. And so I
Sure.
thought with Zen protocol, we can be Satoshi all over again, but not just one or two or 200 people like it was back then,
Right.
but millions of people. So
Mhm.
millions of people get exposure to that, and they feel like they can participate in creation of this new crypto altogether.
Right. Because that was the thing with so many things happening now is like you typically have an ICO or you have an IDO or some investment firm gets early access and then they get a bunch of the supply and then once it goes live everyone dumps. That's become almost hereditary in many ways in crypto now is just almost expected and people kind of have that expectation. So what really interested me in many ways was the popularity of Zen simply from the aspect of the freedom mint, and so when you had that aspect, which you don't really see oftentimes anymore right now in crypto, and like you mentioned and referenced the Satoshi white paper, in many ways Satoshi's original like idea behind Bitcoin is encompassed in a very broad sense by Zen. That's what brought me interested into it, in the more broad sense of things. But the main thing for a lot of people wanting to know is like they see Zen and they want to know, Zen's awesome. There's some cool things about Zen, but where does Zen fit into the structure of crypto in a broad sense? Is Zen attempting to be like a payment form of crypto? Is it for people that may not know blockchain? Is it a decentralized ledger, like bringing interoperability? So is Zen's goal to be a payment form specifically?
Not specifically. So
Okay.
I thought about this a lot, and there's several ways to be in crypto. Number one is speculation. You speculate that something
Sure.
goes up in, measured by fiat, and then you make more fiat with it.
Sure.
Ultimately, you have on ramp with fiat and off ramp with fiat. You're still not solving any issues that we have with fiat, but at
Mhm.
least you can buy yourself a house or something, or a car. I mean, if you're
Right.
lucky. That's definitely is part of Zen. Now, storage of value, most of the coins out there or cryptos are acting like storage of value.
Sure.
And the longer you hold them, if the project is successful, then obviously you will end up with more economic energy in it.
Mhm.
Because, but storage of value is really very similar to shares of a company or shares of a group that's developing it, and there's no way around it. So a lot of them are securities. And Zen definitely can be storage of value simply because if you pay for it in fiat today and
Right.
5 years later fiat actually is cheaper, then you have stored value in something that has disinflationary curve
Sure.
and it's logarithmic in nature versus fiat being exponentially compounding inflation. So
Sure.
storage of value from that perspective is a good idea. And would you rather be storing something that's has 100 million people using it? Of course you would, because there would be market. So at the same
Right.
time, a lot of cryptos have very, very limited coverage.
Sure.
Under 1 million users is very common. We aim to be at 100 million users plus
Mhm.
within next 2 to 3 years, perhaps, I hope.
Right.
Um, that being the case, then can also be an exchange of value protocol. So not just speculation and storage, but also exchange, so that you could, just by the sheer number of users being in it, end
Mhm.
up exchanging it for other things. So you could mint Zen and then you can sell it and trade it for something else if you want to, for an NFT or another crypto. Totally
Right.
fine. Also, I feel like the brick and mortar world or any sort of online, retail world would be integrating Zen too, just because it will be touching so many people. And so for them, like, would they rather go with Doge that has 5 million users or go with Zen that will have 100 million? I
Right.
think they'll go with Zen just because it will have more encompassing coverage of humanity.
Sure. Sure. It has a broader reach to that effect in many ways. And the one thing that kind of looking at the people who are looking on this at on the outside, they see the aspect of free to mint. So things that typically are free don't have inherent value until a buyer perceives a value within that asset, correct? So, from a broad perspective of people who see something like this and they say, well, it's free to mint, how does it have value? What would you say to someone? And do you think there's going to be that pivotal junction within Zen that people no longer see it as a free to mint item, rather
Okay.
they pivot to something of sort of value or valuable?
Very good question. And it can be explained very, very simply. So let's say that something is free.
Sure.
Um, However, there's a condition. The condition is that you can only get it tomorrow.
Mm.
So, and you have to do an action today and an action tomorrow. And
Right.
those actions do cost you some money. In this particular case, we're talking about gas money.
Right.
So the time plus the engagement with the protocol initially, and then disengagement by completing your mint
Mhm.
tomorrow, which is the shortest amount of time you can mint for one day. But you can mint for up to 400 days.
Right.
So the longer you mint, the more valuable the crypto becomes because you don't get it right away. It's like as if
Right.
you're running a virtual miner with your wallet. And
Mhm.
so we do call it free because at the time of your when you receive it in your wallet, you don't have to trade dollars for it. Like, it's not an order where you're trading another coin, other crypto, or your dollars. However, you are participating with your time and your attention, and that is not it does it, that does have value. So it
Sure.
is free, but the value is there.
Right. So its values from the pretty much the inertia, the person participating, hence the proof of participation. That in and of itself derives that value.
That is
Um,
one way to describe it. The other way to describe it really simply is that if there are many, let's say that there's 1,000 DeFi's that is using Zen within their DeFi protocol.
right.
That in itself has value too.
True.
So those
Absolutely.
DeFi's will literally establish the market value outside of the trading platforms, like centralized exchanges or Uniswap or whatever, right?
Sure.
So, and that is based on the fact that those type of DeFi protocols will be interested in using Zen simply because everybody will hold Zen.
Right. So is that the broader picture? Because obviously right now everyone's looking at because Genesis happened what about a week and a half ago, if I'm correct.
October 8th.
October 8th. Okay. So about 10 days ago. So um after Genesis, obviously there's going to be that period of launch. When do you kind of expect to have the implementation of having DeFi protocols wanting to get involved in this? Because the beauty behind this is it's already launching on almost every major chain. Every major chain already has those DeFi protocols on them. So it should be very simple for once that token is on that chain for them to start integrating the Zen token into a form of DeFi on their protocol. When do you kind of see that happening? Do you see that in the next 6 months, a year, 2 years? When do you see that happening?
So this is happening right now. In the last week, there have been up to 15 different projects that launched that are using Zen for something.
Okay.
There is a project that's trying to burn Zen. There is some sort of a meme thing happening too. Then there is a popcorn.network. It's a stable coin yield generator that is just made a proposal to implement Zen as a staking coin so that they can pay yield with popcorn.
Okay.
PowerSwap on Ethereum proof of work is now giving Zen out and giving accelerated APY rewards for people who participate with Zen.
Okay.
Let's see. There's many others that actually approach me, and there's many tools being developed, and people are. I mean, like the most basic thing that people do is that they have their favorite coin, and then they create a Uniswap liquidity pool
Yeah.
by using Zen. So that is the first engagement that we saw.
Right.
Day one, people that I know just decided to pair up and create liquidity pools where they can get fees from the trade, and those fees were just making a lot of money. We're talking about it was almost 50% a day in fees that
Wow.
Uniswap was producing.
Wow.
So
That's
that's incredible. So incredible uptick, even just the first day, just because people felt that all the Ethereum is being burned. I mean, is it really burned for nothing? I mean,
right.
would you pay $7 or $8 million in Ethereum gas fees for something that's free and that
Right.
has no value?
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, like, and the funny thing about it, it's not one transaction. It's not even one group. The whole world participated and collectively voted that Zen is interesting and they're willing to spend $8 million to have it.
Right. Yep. Yep. Because that was the thing is like the minting on Ethereum, right? The amount of sheer volume, I believe, if I'm correct, on that Saturday, it was like 40%, 30 or 40% of the entire volume
It was
uh,
more.
was
It was over 50. It was over
over
50.
50 was just due to Zen. And that's what, you had articles across multiple different publications posting, showcasing that due to one, what they called small project, one unknown project, all of a sudden caused all of this deflationary because that's the problem with Ethereum. So Ethereum moved to proof of stake. But the problem was that there wasn't enough activity on Ethereum because we're in the middle of bear market to make Ethereum deflationary, and it was all brought about by Genesis on October 8th that really Vitalik Buterin in his broad sense of moving to proof of stake and the whole merge, his whole goal was to make Ethereum deflationary. And that was made possible by one project, which is wild. I think not enough people credit just for that aspect, the results of something of what Zen did is one project was able to make that change happen, which I think makes those who are bullish on Ethereum long term see the value of this type of volume for Ethereum. So that's a separate issue.
We were lucky with timing for certain.
Right.
And I told my team that as Ethereum 2 merges or experience a merge, that is when we should be launching,
Mm,
because that is where Ethereum obviously will have the least production. And I think
yep.
it went from 5% inflation to 0.22.
Mm, yep.
So it didn't need to take a giant push, even though I would say over 50% of all transactions on Ethereum plus 4 other chains
Sure.
is a giant push, but it wasn't done by any particular person. Certainly wasn't me. I
Right.
just released the source code and talked ad nauseum about it, and people seem to like my gibberish, and they went
Sure.
for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So with Zen, obviously with all good things, there's going to be people who spirit spread FUD and stuff like that about this is a scam, that's a scam. Stay away from Zen, this, that, and the other. And a lot of people, because Zen got very early on released on MEXC, and so a lot of people
Day
are like,
one.
wow, this is right. Everyone was really impressed that a new project was able to get launched on what most would consider a very, very popular exchange up there in like probably the top 10, top five. So a lot of people saw that. And then a lot of people in the very beginning, saw a lot. Zen absolutely skyrocket. Some of the charts are a little bit misconstrued on like where it actually reached. But like if you look at Coin Market Cap and someone goes over to Coin Market Cap, they see Zen going from half a penny to a dollar on the 8th. And then now they see it at 4 zeros.
It
So what
was a
would you
dollar fifty at the top. Actually, it's pretty crazy.
$1.15? So like
Dollar
what would you
fifty.
$1.50? That like that's insane because I think if I remember correctly, that was over like a 10,000x on the first day. It is somewhere in that ballpark. It was literally insane how much it skyrocketed in day one, and the amount of volume. I think it was about 20 to 30 million dollars in volume. What would you say to someone that, from a initial perspective, that doesn't know anything about Zen, and all they do is they look at the Zen chart and they have questions? What would you say to that person?
I would say Zen is free, and what they're looking at is people gambling and
Mm,
trading and speculating. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of speculation. What they should
sure.
realize is that the what Zen stands for is free mint. And when I say free mint, is that you do not need to trade your dollars to buy it.
Right.
And you should also understand that if you're buying it, you're buying it from a community member that minted it for themselves, not
Mm,
not anyone else. So
got it.
that's what I would say.
Yeah, and because obviously, someone looks at this, and if there was the extent that I've seen some of the things that people will say, and people that are upset that they who didn't get in early will always have something to say about the people that did, and so a lot of people were like, well, because they don't know the tokenomics and don't know the structure behind Zen, they say, oh, the founder of Zen, minted a bunch of tokens, sold them off, and he's done with the project, or they'll just come up with some random stuff to try to throw away Zen. Now, just for clarity, for people that are watching this, with Zen, there was zero mint, there was zero, initial supply. It was everybody getting in. Everyone has equal opportunity in the project, right?
Absolutely. I told my team specifically not to even not even to execute any sort of manual means at all. Um, I first got into Zen at the rank 3000. So I waited for people to have an opportunity to jump in and claim early ranks.
Sure.
Because like think about it, like I am the one literally who's pushing the button and pushing that contract forward. Where's the sport or a game in me pre-minting anything for myself?
Mhm.
Because I have no competition.
Right.
So I would rather, um, well, I wouldn't say we're competing, but we're definitely playing the game together, so to speak.
Right.
So I would rather to play the game together with millions of people than be alone and print myself a useless token.
Sure. Absolutely. And that makes sense. But you have people that look at very surface level approach and they see something like that and they're like, oh my goodness. Now, obviously, with this whole launch, Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, Avalanche, I was surprised to see Ethereum proof of work. That was interesting. Which one do you think that, when it comes to Zen, which one do you think is going to have the majority of adoption? Obviously, Polygon's fantastic. I really like Polygon. Do you think Polygon is going to be the major drive for the adoption of Zen as
I
far
think
as?
it really depends on how we look at it. So there may be more Zen per capita on Polygon, but it doesn't mean that there's going to be more volume there.
True.
So I think Ethereum is definitely the battleground
Okay.
where most of the value is generated, not just with Zen, but just with all of the projects that are launching. So I think BSC is very interesting.
Yeah.
They have a lot of play to earn games and a lot of NFT activity and lots of interesting development happening right there. And it's
Right.
inexpensive to get into, and they have a lot of users. So I'm very curious to see what will happen to Zen there.
Okay.
And Ethereum proof of work was chosen as an experimental chain to see
Okay.
how will Zen affect their ecosystem.
Right.
And surprisingly, it affected their ecosystem very positively, where they
Hmm.
reported that their miners are now earning 35% more in fees,
Oh, wow.
which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, when Ethereum proof of work started off on a very rocky start, to say the least. A lot of things happened very early on, and people are very opinionated about this whole move from proof of work to proof of stake. But I did find that interesting. You don't see a lot of projects actually launching, focusing on Ethereum proof of work. So I thought that was very interesting. Now, obviously, there's kind of touching on the last thing is your relationship to Richard Hart and Hex. There's some community. I've seen some interviews. Richard Hart, vicariously kind of throwing some shade at Zen. Obviously, he's very familiar that Zen has launched. What is your relationship to Richard Hart, and what is like the because you've got the Hex community? They're very dedicated. The Hexians are very dedicated to their project, and now you're building the Zen community. Is there any synergy between the two projects, or is this more of like a XRB and Cardano that they just can't seem to get along kind of thing?
So I have a lot of good friends that are Hexicans
Okay.
and people who have spent a lot of money on Hex and Pulse Chain
Yep.
and very interested in Pulse Chain. And I am also interested in Pulse Chain very much. And I consider Richard a friend also. We had conversations online and offline. And so I think I'm really sad that Richard is been getting attacked, so viciously by the exterior world, like so to speak. So people who do not understand what he stands for. And
Sure.
I think he plays a very important role in the ecosystem. Well, first of all, building a community of very interesting and solid people.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he does verbalize first principles of crypto the way that I see it. A lot of people don't listen because they only focus on his Rolexes and his Lambos and whatever else that he's showing. And I wish people would open their mind and listen a little bit more deeply to what he's saying. And so I think he's a very important player in the ecosystem, and I consider him to be very influential for the crypto in general. And so I wish people would stop, attacking him so much for launching, I guess, Hex or talking about Hex the way he does. I mean, he really doesn't deserve. I mean, a label of scammer, because
Sure.
I always told people, I'm like, listen, okay, so just because he's acting a certain way and that's the way that he does marketing, he's innocent until he's proven guilty. He's not
Right.
guilty in anything that I have seen.
Yeah.
And so I think, I continue to have obviously a lot of relationships in the Hexagon community. I have friends that, you know,
There you go.
I have like a coffee mug.
Closer.
It's actually pretty cool.
That's
So
pretty
yeah, I mean, there are good people out there everywhere, and but like with anything, people get passionate. They get passionate about what they believe in, and I think we should be more open uh, towards more communities out there and work together. So Charles Hoskinson, for example, with Cardano, I mean,
Mhm.
he launched Cardano because he didn't like where Ethereum was going,
Yep. Yep.
and there was a lot of rivalry just because of the way that he was describing. And I think um, he's a very, very smart individual, and he doesn't technically need to tweet about how Ethereum took 8 years to get to their merge. But when the merge did happen, he's like tweeting, okay, look at them, they're like this and they're that, and we're better. And that's
Right.
unfortunate. That's unfortunate because that polarizes the people within the communities, and they end up attacking each other. But we really
Yep.
should be working together, and we should make crypto more interesting. And so again, I have a lot of friends that are interested in Pulse Chain. I'm interested in Pulse Chain. I think it would be cool. And so when Pulse Chain launches and then gets copied to Pulse Chain, it will bring all of those users that Zen is generating right now. So
Right.
maybe it's going to be 10 million, maybe 100 million, maybe 200 million. Who knows, right?
Sure.
And so I think we're on this together. We can all be
Right.
Satoshi, and we can help each other out. And there should be less um, polarization and tribalism and maximalism, because it doesn't help. Maximalism turns off your mind from ability to learn and understand new things.
True.
And I mean, and we see it in all of the communities. I mean, like Bitcoin maxis, anything you
Yep.
tell them about Ethereum, they're not even thinking.
Sure.
So because they think that Bitcoin is the only pure thing, pure play out there, which may or may not be true. And then there's many projects within the Ethereum community that are extremely fragmented as well. So I think with Zen, we can unify all of the communities, and we can realize that we're all in this together, and we shouldn't really be attacking each other.
Right. Yeah, because that's the thing is, when the entire purpose of crypto was really to focus on the little guy, for lack of better terms, right? And so when you have all the little guys and gals attacking each other for the purpose of what was created for them in the first place, it's counterintuitive in some ways, right? So that's what I did like about uh, what you guys are doing with Zen is it almost acts like a uniting token to bring people of different interest on Ethereum, on Binance, on Polygon, now soon Moonbeam, and you've got Ethereum Proof of Work, Avalanche, Polygon, just a massive, massive community, and hopefully even more as time progresses. But it's very interesting as it's one of the few things that's actually I think could bring communities together rather than the XRP army attacking the ADA community, or Charles Hoskinson being upset that XRP army are constantly nagging at him. So I think if there is that opportunity that as Zen continues to increase, as more adopters come to Zen, seeing what commonality people can draw from and bond to, that removes a lot of that strife within a lot of communities.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, the maximalism approach to certain blockchains or cryptos.
Yes. So I welcome creative discourse when we can actually use it to build something interesting together.
Right.
When there's trolls and fathers out there, and they attack person's character. I mean, first of all, my message to you guys is like, come on, do something useful in your life, and find find an energy outlet to actually be creative. Do not waste your time trolling other people and calling them names and threatening. I mean, of course, I mean, cyberbullying is a thing. It
Sure.
exists in crypto community. It's not helpful. It's not helpful to react to it. And I think, I mean, if there is a discourse, it needs to be done on a technological level, perhaps economic level. Not anything like, okay, he said this and she did that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what the day television is for. Uh, I
Sure.
mean, it's not. I don't have time for it. I mean, there's too many exciting things to develop. So
Absolutely. Too many exciting things happening in Web3 and crypto to spend all your time, waste and spend all your time, valuable time, on something that doesn't bring value. So absolutely agree with you there. Oh, Jack, I appreciate you coming on to the channel. I appreciate this interview. Obviously, a lot of people still, there's still a very broad market that is yet to hear about Zen, the opportunities that it brings. I'm excited to see how the future of Zen plays out. Obviously, it's very, very early on. We're talking about it's been out for less than 2 weeks. officially. So it'll be interesting as time progresses and kind of seeing where the future of Zen goes to. But I'm excited for you. I'm excited for this project and see where everything goes and staying in touch to see how things progress. And
Amazing.
the launch in 3 hours for two more chains. Super exciting.
Yeah, yeah. And one other thing I wanted to mention real quick. So a lot of people are saying um, Zen is being attacked by bots. That's actually not true. So let's think from this logical perspective.
Sure.
There's a couple of arguments. One is that the price will be it's they call it a dumpamental. So not
Right.
depumpamental, but dumpamental.
Right. Fundamental.
Zen has value when people give it value. There's no price to dump because technically it's worth zero unless you give it value. So when you're selling or buying anything, you're in the process of giving it value, and there's no point to think that it has a value that's going to be dropping, because the value is really derived from the people that are joining the protocol and the new stuff being built on top of it. That's the
Sure.
pumpamental aspect of it. The abundance of Zen is what brings those communities together and those builders together to build new things.
Right.
That's one. Now, bots, like if you think about it, what is a bot? It's a person who is running multiple wallets. There's nothing wrong with running multiple wallets. You probably have 12 wallets yourself for various things, and you feel more secure having them. It's actually standard practice to have many wallets.
Yep.
Now, if you have 1 million wallets and you spend $5 to mint from each wallet, that's $5 million. Are you willing to burn that much on gas? Maybe you are, but then hey, you just secured the Ethereum network and you made everybody's life better, and you paid the validators, and our self custody is stronger because there's more reason for the network to be more secure. And then potentially you will be rewarded with Zen and you'll have a better allocation of it. But hey, doesn't matter if you're a bot or a person, you still need to pay for it.
Sure.
And so the other thing that we're looking at is we're looking at Google Analytics that does not track bots. Bots go directly for the smart contract on chain. And what we see is that in about 8 days, we have had 45 million interactions with the web app. So 45 million, like in my career, I have never seen it. That basically means people were touching links and buttons and attaching their wallets and minting from a wallet.
Right.
So 45 million interactions in just 8 days is just mind-boggling, but it does happen, and Google Analytics is providing those results. So I wouldn't really worry that much about the bots. And what we plan to do in the future, we plan to integrate a multi-wallet minting system where you can specify how much gas you want to spend, like let's say $100, and then it will create as many wallets as you need for you. And you will not even need to track them because it's going to be connected to the master wallet that did the first transaction.
Got it. So it allows you, if I'm understanding correctly, it would allow you to mint across multiple chains with a specified amount of funds. Is that correct?
One chain, but the number of wallets will be abstracted away within the contract itself. So you wouldn't be necessarily needing to create a bunch of private keys. You just use one private key, one wallet, and then you say, I'm willing to spend $200 on gas. How much Zen can I get? And so there will be a calculator that will tell you, and then once you execute that transaction, the smart contract underneath will actually create the it's going to be part of the protocol where the multi-wallet execution will run, but you will not see it. You'll just see the one transaction locking you in for the future mint.
Awesome. Yeah, that would make it very simple for a lot of people that may want to set up, multiple wallets under the same MetaMask, right? But then this almost does that process for them.
And it will also equalize the playing field. So people who are not, programmers or developers, they can just click one button, get their transaction signed, and they're good to go. No need to create scripts or talk to people to develop bots for them. I mean, there's it's not necessary. So I think people should forget about bots, because all it comes down to is how much gas are you willing to pay. If you're willing to pay a lot of gas, then obviously you're taking on more risk. You should be getting more Zen. So completely
Right.
reasonable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, any last kind of tidbits, maybe suggestions of advice, golden nuggets, I don't know what you call them, for people interested in Zen?
Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your cat, and tell your dog that Zen is the world's friendliest cryptocurrency, and
Awesome.
anybody can have it, and just go at it, play with it, and learn about it, and tell other people about it. I think it's gonna be great.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, Jack. I enjoyed our conversation. I enjoyed the future of Zen. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, we'll stay in touch. Maybe get you back on the channel a few months down the road, see where things are. But I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone who tuned in, and good luck.
Amazing. Thank you. Very good to meet you. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye now.